Hello again, and welcome to Mr. Ulrich's LandofBiology.com. I am Mr. Ulrich. In this video, we're going to be looking at the lines of defense. This is the introduction to the immune system. If we're going to be discussing the immune system and our body's defenses against disease, we should talk a little bit about what is a disease. According to dictionary.com, disease is a pathological condition of a body part, an organ, or system resulting from various causes or an infection. Yeah, whatever. We don't have to go very much further. All we have to talk about is it being a failure to maintain homeostasis, the failure to keep that stable internal condition. It's a dangerous world out there, so we should talk about some of the causes of these diseases, these failures to maintain homeostasis. One way to get them is from your genes, thanks mom and dad. Another way is from environmental stress, like cold can bring on hypothermia. What we're going to be looking more at with this body system are pathogens, living organisms that cause disease. Well, if we're going to talk about pathogens, a lot of people think they can avoid germs, or like to think they can avoid germs, but you can't really completely avoid them. They are, for all intents and purposes, everywhere. They're not all that bad, though. Even though the vast majority of those germs out there are not causing us any problems, our bodies have developed lines of defense to block and respond to those few pathogens that are out there. I'll refer to these as the 3 lines of defense. The first line of defense is pretty simple. It's push them out, way out. It's blocking the pathogens from entering the body in the first place. We're going to do this using things like skin, using mucus, which is very acidic and traps bacteria before it has a chance to get in places. Nose hairs, boogers represent all kinds of pathogens and gnarly stuff that hasn't gotten into your body. Sweat can certainly wash germs from pores. Stomach acids will kill many of the germs that are on our food. Even tears have germicidal properties. All of these are going to act to keep pathogens from getting into the body in the first place. But that first line of defense we know is not foolproof. Skin can break. So thankfully we have the second line of defense. This is called the inflammatory response. This is just a real generalized reaction to an infection or to a wound. What I mean by generalized is the body doesn't really know what it's responding to. It's not responding to any particular type of infection. It just knows that something is there and it's not supposed to be there, and it responds by just swelling. Histamines are released, and that causes capillaries to dilate and become leaky, and that allows more plasma and intercellular fluid to build up in the tissues, and that makes things kind of swell up. If you think about a bug bite, that's what's happening with a bug bite. The tissue damage has caused histamines to be released, and that's what the swelling is coming from. That also allows more blood to flow there, so we actually get an increase in temperature at the infection. Another thing that can also happen is a fever. Now, you're probably not going to get this from a bug bite, but if people get a lot of bug bites, it can bring on a full inflammatory response, an anaphylactic response. That can include something like a fever. The problem with this generalized reaction is that it's kind of crude. It does cause destruction of those infected cells, but it's also going to cause some destruction of healthy surrounding cells. And that's the part that you don't really start to not feel very good because of that damage. So while you're swelling up and feeling kind of rotten, and your body's going through that inflammatory response, your third line of defense is kind of spooling up and getting ready to really take out the pathogen completely. This is a specific attack. That means that the body is actually learning to recognize specific infected cells and the pathogens themselves. Specialized blood cells called lymphocytes are created. These are the B and T cells. They're going to release those antibodies, proteins that are going to recognize the antigens of the pathogens, those cell surface proteins, and deactivate the pathogens and the infected cells. This is a very specific, specified attack. Once you have gone through the third line of defense and made the cells that can make the antibodies against a particular antigen, you always keep some of those cells. And that's going to lead to immunity, so that you can make antibodies against any cell, any pathogen that presents the same or similar antigen. We're going to talk more about that in the next set of videos. Once again, thanks for checking into MrUlrichsLandofBiology.com. You can always go and send me an email by going to my website. You can also get some supporting documents, information, materials that you may have missed in class, or that you may want to include in your notes on the website as well. Thanks again for checking in. We'll see you in class.